Good morning, everyone, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk about the work of the Trust for Public Land and our role in designing parks for health here in Los Angeles County and around the country. We are the only national conservation organization that also builds parks, and we've been in existence for about 40 years. My talk today will spend a little time discussing the why, and then I will introduce the Trust for Public Land and our work at the national level, and then move on to our work here in LA and our work to bring new parks and open spaces that to communities who need them most in Los Angeles County. But before I get started, I'm just a little curious to know if anyone has heard of the Trust for Public Land before. It's always good to know, just curious. Okay, so about half the room. I'm also curious to know why people are here, what your interests are. So are people here actively getting degrees in public policy? No. Planning? Okay. Public health? So it's majority of you are planners. Who else is here? If you're not a planner, what are you studying?
Architecture?
Architecture, okay.
International relations.
Okay.
Engineering.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Urban planning.
What's that?
Urban planning.
Urban planning. Okay, okay. Great. So actually a pretty good mix of people. A majority of you are planners. And I am assuming that a majority of you are interested in designing for the public good or change for the public good or doing something that will, at the end of the day, kind of help improve communities. Is that correct? Okay, great. And does anyone here have experience with landscape architecture? Couple folks. Okay, okay. Great, well that's helpful. So feel free to jump in while I'm talking. I have to say this, I don't regularly talk for 45 minutes in front of a group of people. We lead participatory design process, so we try to talk as little as possible and get everyone else to talk as much as possible. So I have some notes here with me to make sure that I share all of my key points, and if you have something, a question or something you'd like to share, please feel free to jump in. So I want to make sure this is as interactive as possible. So just to kind of set the stage a little bit, I'm going to start off showing a video that was developed by Nike for a new campaign that they're starting called Design to Move. And it's to address what they're calling a physical inactivity crisis around the globe. And so I think it's a very brief video, but I think it kind of starts to get us in the frame of mind of why we're here.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years.
It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter.
I think I'd go looking for aliens.
If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live,
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
So I think that says a lot as to kind of why we're doing this work, and it's really about making sure that everyone has access to quality of life, no matter who you are and where you're at. And access to parks is a key factor in making sure that you can exercise, you can play, you can run, you can garden, and you can be as physically fit and healthy as possible. So I think the video does a great job of kind of explaining the need and looking at kind of future, where we're going, and kind of where we're at now in the age of video games and cities that are really built around streets instead of people. So I'm going to add to this story a little bit more with a few of the reasons why the Trust for Public Land believes our country and our community needs more parks. So one of the reasons is our most densely populated cities are becoming even more densely populated. So today, 79% of the U.S. population lives in urban areas. Over 50% of the U.S. population lives in only 17% of the U.S. land area. That concentration of people in American cities has been evident over the last several decades and is going to continue to grow in the foreseeable future. So we need to think carefully now about the land we have and what we're going to do with it. The need for more physical activity is readily apparent as more Americans are diagnosed as being clinically obese. Almost half, so about 49% of Americans get less than the minimum recommended amount of physical activity, and fully 36% of U.S. adults engage in no leisure time at physical activity at all. So the U.S. is in the U.S., 1/3 of adults are obese. This correlates to dollars. Obesity costs the individual a healthier life and enjoyment that goes with it. The care of obesity costs us all. In 2008, annual medical costs associated with obesity were estimated at $147 billion. By 2018, if Americans do not change their lifestyle, annual medical costs associated with obesity will become approximately $344 billion. Some say that we cannot afford to keep existing parks open or that we need to cut services, but at this time, we cannot afford to keep those parks open and to continue to create more. Finally, our economic impact studies that the Trust for Public Land does, we work with cities around the country and talking about kind of the economic benefits of parks, confirm that communities that receive much needed and seldom appreciated economic benefit from their park systems. So park systems actually help to bring dollars to communities. So some of the studies show the total economic benefit, for instance, from, from Long Island is $2.74 billion. So those are tourism dollars. Those are dollars that people go to visit a park and then have lunch next to the park. Those are dollars that people spend in sporting goods so that they can go play at the park. Those are all dollars associated with parks. Here in LA, we're actually pushing to get a study done, so we don't know what the benefits would be, but Seattle is $653 million and Denver $576 million. Additionally, exposure to, there's a few or many more benefits of parks, and I'm just going to talk about a few of them. And if you didn't walk into the room being a park lover, hopefully you'll leave being a park lover. So exposure to nature and greenery makes people healthier. I don't think that's a surprise. So a growing amount of research talks about children who suffer from attention deficit disorder. They can concentrate on schoolwork better if they get out and participate in activities that are in green settings. Residents who live in dense communities are able to experience and cope with stress better if they have greenery and kind of more of a natural setting around them. Parks support play and brain development. For small children, playing is essentially learning. Play is proven to be a critical element in a child's future success, and it helps kids to develop muscle strength, coordination, language development, cognitive thinking, reasoning abilities, negotiating. What do you do on the playground when you're a kid? You do a whole lot of negotiating and learning to share. They also promote the social health of communities. So parks help to bring people together, and this is a one of the hard benefits to quantify. It's not something that you can necessarily study, but at the end of the day, they offer opportunities for recreation and exercise to folks who maybe don't have any other alternatives. They also offer people a sense of community, maybe in communities where there isn't any gathering center or place for them to go and participate as a community member. And they also help to build social capital. So if people are working together in a community to build a park, or they're participating in the development or the design of the park, or they're helping to steward that park, they're meeting their neighbors, they're building leadership amongst themselves as a community, and ultimately helping to build capital within that community that will go farther than just the setting of the park. And finally, parks help increase frequency of exercise. That's not much of a surprise. A group of studies reviewed by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine showed that the creation or enhanced access to parks produced almost a 50% increase in the frequency of physical activity. And I think one of the most important things that we're really concerned about here at the Trust for Public Land is that despite all of these benefits, parks are not distributed equally. And a 2005 University of Southern California study of park access in Los Angeles found that more than 2.6 million Angelenos do not have access to a park within a quarter mile of their house. And this park access gets harder and harder and harder to come by if you live in communities that are low income or have concentrated poverty, or communities that are primarily Latino, African American, or Asian American Pacific Islander neighborhoods. So parks are not distributed equally. And this correlates to performance. It correlates to performance in schools, in school setting, in physical activity. In 2003-2004 school year, nearly 1/3 of schools in the LA Unified School District had fewer than 10% of students meeting basic physical activity levels. In 40 of the district's 605 schools, not a single student was rated as physically fit. So those are pretty startling numbers if you think about it. These are little kids who, maybe we, as we get older, have an excuse. We're busy, we're driving a lot, but kids should not have any excuse to not be physically fit. So the Trust for Public Land, we're a national conservation organization, and we've been in business for 40 years, and we believe that every human being has the right to have access to parks and open space. Our mission is to conserve land for people to enjoy as parks, gardens, and other natural places, and really to ensure livable communities for generations to come. We have 3 program areas. Parks for People, which is the program area that I manage here in Los Angeles, and its main focus is on urban, so parks and everything associated with cities. We have Working Lands. That program area covers ranches, forests, waterways, all sorts of lands all around the country, from Montana to Florida to the Pacific Northwest. And Land and Water. And in our Land and Water program area, we've been doing a lot of work looking at resilient cities, looking at how can we work to conserve and bring more wetlands to communities like New York and the East Coast that recently had a huge impact from Hurricane Sandy. How can we build resiliency into cities by looking at the natural resources that they already have? Within our programs, we also offer a number of services, and I won't talk through each of these, but I'm going to give just a few kind of examples. One is our research and education area. So we have a Center for City Park Excellence, and there's a few publications that are being circulated. I didn't bring enough for everyone, but just enough that you can kind of take a look, and if you're interested, I can make sure you get a hold of them. But the Center for City Park Excellence is out of DC. They basically do a whole lot of research, and a lot of the statistics that I was using earlier come from our Center for City Park Excellence, and we look to understand what's really happening in terms of parks and urban areas in the country. We publish a City Parks Facts that looks at cities around the country, and we also just last spring launched ParkScore, which is a park database. You can find it at parkscore.org. It right now looks at 40 of the cities, 40 of the country's cities, and rates their parks based on dollars spent on maintenance, a number of playground per 1,000 children, a number of parks per 1,000 people, how far parks are to people. We're going to be adding 10 additional cities this year. We update the database every year with our GIS team, so it's pretty up to date, and it does it's doing a great job of sharing information about parks with communities, and it's also helping to create a little bit of competition among cities, I think, so cities can look and see where they're at in terms of park access and quality of services that they're providing. So I think that's a great example of our research and education work. There's also the health benefits of park study that I'm passing around, and a number of other studies and reports that we publish. We also have do conservation transaction work. This is a project in Montana. Feels quite a long ways from here, and this is actually one of the most complicated, whoops, it somehow skipped. Okay, one of the most complicated land transactions in U.S. history. It's actually the second largest acquisition in the history of the United States, except for Alaska. So it's second to Alaska. So I think that helps kind of talk about the scale. It's 310,000 acres, and it's in the Swan Valley in Montana. We partnered with the TNC, oh goodness gracious, I just forgot their acronym. The Nature Conservancy, TNC. Anyways, we partnered with them to do the acquisition, and our work for this acquisition really came out of the need to protect some habitat. This is actually one of the most intact biological ecosystems. There hasn't been one creature that has gone extinct from this place in the last 2 centuries. So it's quite a pristine setting, a little bit different than where we're at now, but also has great, enormous value for land, for people, and also for ecosystems. And then we also do conservation finance work, which is basically we help public agencies and other partners secure dollars through for campaigns, so that for propositions basically, so that there's money to fund parks and open space projects. So we work on conservation finance campaigns around the country. Nearly every election has a couple. Here in California, we actually created these maps like the one you see here. Really quickly, all the red on this is Los Angeles County, of course, and all the red you see are all the communities that need basically don't have enough access to parks. So you can definitely see the huge need that we have and all the work that we have in front of us. We use these maps to tell the story of need and help to generate about $200 million in grants to go to parks in just low-income communities around the state of California. That was through Proposition 84. Many of you might remember Proposition 84. It was a specific assembly bill within there called AB 31 out of Kevin De Leon's office. And actually, a few of our projects are funded by this grant program. So that is conservation finance. And then finally, outreach design and building of parks. So at the moment, we're working on diverse urban park projects and programs in 16 cities around the country, from Portland, Maine to here in Los Angeles. The response in each community is different, but the mission is the same. Our goal is to provide more and better parks. We're working with different partners. We work with both public and private partners in each of these cities. We do not do the maintenance. We only do the outreach, the design, and the development, and then we hand the parks off to our public agency partners. And we're really looking to build upon our history of success doing acquisition and transaction and all of that goes into that, and working with the range of public partners to develop meaningful projects that will help to have a real impact on communities. So I'm going to just take us down now and start to get a little bit more specific on our park work. I'm going to take a stop in New York City first, and then Chicago, and then we'll end up here in Los Angeles. So in New York City, their public elementary schools serve 628,000 children. And fewer than half of those children have usable playgrounds that are that they can get to. So, and many of the schools are little more than barren asphalt lots, like the one you'll see here. So we're partnering with New York City and Mayor Bloomberg to transform these neglected spaces into playgrounds. And our goal is to ensure that every child in the city has a safe outdoor play space within a 10-minute walk. So again, here is the kind of the standard state of affairs. This is actually not so different than what we have in LA. And then this is what they're turning into. So the playgrounds all include running tracks. You can kind of see around the outside. So these are playgrounds, but they're also places where that the schools will bring the children for PE class and other outside events. So through this process, just like all of our other projects, we use participatory design. So we involve students, school staff, and community members in helping to design the playgrounds and picking out what the students want. We manage that process, and we take it all the way through the completion of construction. Once the project is built, we also work with community partners to run the programs at the playgrounds to make sure that they're being taken care of the way they need to be taken care of, and to help address in advance any issues related to safety or crime or vandalism, and making sure that the playgrounds are really serving the community. So in Chicago, we are working on a project called the Bloomingdale Trail. It's a 3-mile elevated basically trail project that is being converted from an old elevated railway that has been abandoned. It's about a 100-year-old railway line. And it's according to our Chicago staff, I need to confirm this, but they tell me it's the 3rd elevated park in the world and the longest in the US. So it's similar. I don't know if anyone here has been to see the High Line in New York City. The High Line is very glamorous and amazing and beautiful. It's highly designed. So this will be kind of a toned down version of this. It will be running trails and jogging, and there will be parks. There's going to be about 5 parks along the 3 miles, and it will have direct access into neighborhoods. So people can actually hop out of their car or walk out of their house and get on this trail and run through 3 miles, not have to worry about crossing any streets. Yes?
I'm actually from Chicago. Do you know where it's located?
Yes, I do. I have my notes here. I should have asked that to start. Anybody else here from Chicago? Okay, we have a couple of Chicago folks in the room. It is the near northwest side of Chicago. Does that help you? If you give me your info, I can tell you exactly where it is. So when you go back, you can visit it. So it's actually the total project cost is it's close to $100 million. It's $91 million is the total project cost, and we're about halfway there with fundraising right now. So the goal is to have it done in the next couple years. So on one of your trips home, you might be able to go for a jog on it. Okay, so Los Angeles. So here in Los Angeles, we have many of the same issues that I talked about at the beginning. Only 1/3 of children in LA County live within walking distance of a park. And we know that children who only have access to vacant lots are not really going to get out and play or exercise like they need to. So here in LA, our program is working to address issues of park access. We have 4 major program areas. Parks for People. Our goal is to build parks and hopefully have a park within a 10-minute walk of every child in Los Angeles County one day. Green Alleys. We're working to transform dilapidated and litter-strewn alleys, which are really kind of havens for crime and backroom deals, into functional community spaces that will also serve to capture stormwater runoff, maybe do some filtering of rainwater before it lands into the LA River, and promote safe passages within neighborhoods in South Los Angeles. We have a fitness zone initiative where we install heavy-duty, state-of-the-art fitness zone equipment in existing parks, primarily existing parks. And this is really aimed at people who would like to exercise but maybe can't afford a gym membership or don't have any gyms in their communities. And then we also have the land acquisition, where we provide skill and experience to help partners acquire property, and then we transfer it to them. So in the Angeles National Forest, in the San Gabriel Mountains, or in the Santa Monicas, we're doing land transactions all the time up there. So our efforts in LA County focus on bringing parks to communities that need them most. And there's a growing recognition among city officials here in Los Angeles County, City of Los Angeles, and many of the other small cities that that LA desperately needs to expand parks and open space. And it's surprising, I think, for many people to hear in a time of kind of a little where budgets are strapped that the cities are actually looking to expand parks, but they get it and they want to do it. So the City of LA has launched a 50 Parks initiative, where their goal has been to build 50 new parks. It was supposed to be before the mayor's term was done, but probably within the next few years, and many of our projects are part of the 50 Parks initiative. And I have to say, we think that's great, and it makes us very, very happy, but we also think that the mere presence of a park does not guarantee a healthier population. The proximity of a park to where people live is not the only factor that influences whether they will choose to visit a park. So with growing clamor from doctors and even those who just want to strengthen muscles, lungs, and hearts, we want to really look at how can we make parks be more than just pretty places. So how can individual parks actually help people become healthier and more fit? A few aspects of our projects are intended to ensure communities can get the most out of their parks. And I'm just going to walk you through a few of what we consider kind of the important bullets for making sure that we're designing healthy parks. So the first bullet, so I'm going to just kind of, you can see these here, all these bullets. I'm going to just walk you through with some prettier pictures so you don't have to just look at words. So community participation. This is a photo from one of our projects in Northeast Los Angeles. And we work directly with the community from the very beginning of the project. So we go out to them with a blank piece of paper and really get their ideas for what they want to see in this park. If the community is bought into the park from the beginning, we know that they're going to be more invested in the long term. And we really need those local stewards. We need the people who are telling us what they want, so that we're making sure we're building a park that's ultimately going to meet their needs. So we asked the community, what do they want to see? What are your concerns? What's missing from the neighborhood? We don't live there. We don't know. We're not going to be the ones who are going to be going to visit this park on a daily basis. So those questions are really important. We also do some research to look at who lives in the neighborhood. Most of the time we get a pretty good idea. Occasionally there are still surprises, but it really helps us plan for this park and what are the challenges the park is going to experience once it opens, and who is the park going to really ultimately be serving in the long run. And then we also really need to build that leadership. We want, when we cut the ribbon on that park, to have a community group in place who's going to call us or call the city if there's graffiti, who's going to show up and hold events at the park so that it's being used. We know that parks that are safe people are going to be more likely to go. And if the park starts to feel like that kind of dark, scary park at the end of the street, people are not going to be using it. So we really need to build that community group and that community base around it. We like to create custom parks. So we're not going to just take the one playground element out of the catalog and put it in the park with some grass and a chain link or a welded steel fence. We really want to create a beautiful space that people want to go and visit. It needs to be a special space. And just because we're trying to build parks on a shoestring budget or in an affordable way doesn't mean we can't incorporate those special elements. And so this is also from this same park, the El Sereno Park. We just had a ribbon cutting on December 8th. It's complete. And one of the things that we did, even though it was a very tight budget, was we included a mosaic artist. So there's mosaic art in a few different places in the park that tells the story of the park, but also creates elements of surprise. So when people are exploring the park, there's little nooks and crannies that they can find and explore and enjoy. We also like to create a sense of place, so bringing in some native plants that have kind of seasonal effect, let light shine through. The aesthetic experience in parks matters, and I think that's really, really, really important. It's not just about the playground and the sand and the grass. Bringing in other elements is important. Kids are want to go, and they're going to bring their parents. So designing into the park opportunities for people to exercise. So walking paths, really simple idea, just incorporating a walking path around the perimeter of the park. Bringing in the fitness equipment, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, so that people can exercise while they're at the park. Locating the fitness equipment so that it's next to the playground so that parents can exercise while their kids are playing. Doing things like in the grassy area, instead of just creating a flat grassy area, creating berms so that kids can run from one berm to the other berm and back again. Bringing in rocks and boulders so that there's jumping and running and different types of experiential opportunities. So, and then I think also mixing it up. So there are studies that say that if you have just the off-the-shelf play equipment, your kids are not going to get the same amount of physical activity as if you have half natural play and half off the shelf. So you can have some of it, but mix it up. And then I think being considerate about making sure that the parks are designed to accommodate people with a range of different disabilities, making sure that there's benches next to the playground, making sure that there's comfortable places for people to just be in the park. So again, the walking paths and the trails, I think we think that looking at parks also within the broader community, what are the connections, how do people get there, who's going to use the park, are there opportunities to reach out to those people and bring them into the park? Is there a local school that could walk their kids over to the park for a field trip? And then I think finally one of the important ones is the stewardship, safety features, park stewardship. So simple things like park hours, making sure that the park you're picking has places for people to watch and kind of be stewards when it's closed so that they can see what's going on, bringing in a range of park uses. So if you have a little tiny park, fit as much as you can into it so that there's opportunities for people to come and exercise, for kids to play, for people to sit and drink a cup of coffee, and that will help to keep it activated throughout the day. Security cameras are a big thing that's happening, and I'm not sure how effective they are. We will see. We do work closely with the sheriff and the LAPD, and also just making sure that the park is sturdy and well designed so that it will hold up over time. So that might be getting a little bit too much into the weeds, but basically really the goal of this is to design high quality parks that have unique elements that will bring people for many, many, many reasons, not just for the playground. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is present 3 projects we're working on in communities here in LA County. I'm going to first talk about our South Los Angeles Green Alley Master Plan. I figured there'd be a few planners in the room, so I threw this project in. And then we're going to talk about fitness zones, and then I'm going to talk about our park projects. So anyone here live in South LA right now? Anyone? So we have a couple people. Anyone here doing any work in South Los Angeles? Couple people. Okay. South LA is an amazing community. It has a really long history here in Los Angeles and a very rich history. Today, I would describe South Los Angeles as people rich and resource poor. So the city in general has done very little to direct resources into South LA as a community, and that's one of the reasons why we are focusing a lot of our work in South LA. And I think over the years, South LA actually was traditionally a very suburban community and has become even more urbanized. We are the area where we're doing our South LA Green Alley Master Plan is a 16 square mile area, and the density in that area is greater than the density of the city of Oakland. So it has over 300,000 people living within that 16 square mile area. So although it looks very suburban from the front, lots have been built on and built on and built on and built up, and there's a lot of people living in a very small area. As a result of that, and as also as a result of the city, just not having as many resources that are going into South LA, residents of South LA are disproportionately impacted by health-related disease, poor air quality, and really have fewer limited places to play. It's often ranked as one of the worst areas in LA County in terms of public health indicators. And if you think about it's really only about 10 miles from Brentwood. It starts to kind of put it into perspective. So the residents of South Los Angeles have the highest number of deaths from heart disease, diabetes, and stroke, highest rates of obesity in the county, child obesity, adult diabetes, and the highest rates of sedentary adults. And this isn't just an accident. It really is a result of what's happening with the built environment, what's happening in South Los Angeles. We have the community where we're working on one of our alley projects. The family comes home after work, and they will not leave the house. They have 3 children. They will not let them leave the house. They do not feel it's safe. So then what happens is people just end up staying inside their homes. And so our goal is to start to find ways in small and big to help bring change. And so we're working on some smaller pocket park projects that will target smaller communities throughout South Los Angeles, but we're also working on the South Los Angeles Green Alley Master Plan. So the South LA Green Alley Master Plan is basically kind of dovetailing on efforts by the city and other policymakers here in Los Angeles to develop a policy and planning framework for green alleys in the city of LA. Green alleys are gaining more kind of momentum and visibility around the country, even around the world. They're really looked at as to have great potential in terms of stormwater capture and helping to maybe even address issues like heat island effect and climate change by lowering temperatures of cities. But really what we're interested in, one of the things we're most interested in for green alleys is the kind of the human potential. So what are the benefits and how can green alleys really serve as community connectors, as ways to expand open space within the community that is already so incredibly built out? LA has 900 linear miles of alleys. South LA is 30% of those alleys. So I think my math's a little bit bad, but I think that's 300 linear miles. Is that right? Yes. So quite a big number of alleys, and if you line them all up, I mean, it's about the third of the acreage of Griffith Park in South Los Angeles just in alleys. So we see alleys as an opportunity to supplement park space, encourage walking and play, improve water quality by capturing some of that stormwater and dry season runoff that from people washing their cars, helping to give some of that water that flows off the alleys into the streets and into the LA River, the kind of a first cleaning, or maybe even infiltrate some of it. South LA actually has huge water basins all underneath it. So the area is rich with aquifers, and it's a really great place to, and the soil is also optimum for infiltrating. So it's a great way for us to look at kind of capturing and keeping some of that water that we need. And then also greening the urban matrix. How can we incorporate plantings into these alleys? We've been looking at potentially bringing in espaliered fruit trees, vines to help limit graffiti, and closing off some of these alleys so that they turn into kind of smaller paseos or little kind of alley parklets. And then finally, looking at reducing crime and building community. So when we first started on our alley project in South Los Angeles, it's in the Avalon neighborhood, and we first went and talked to people, and people had actually never talked to their neighbors. And they'd been living in the same place for 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, long times. And so we just had simple living room meetings where we got together in people's backyards and started to talk and get to know each other. And I think it's a simple act, but at the end of the day, if you can start to bring people together to take ownership, and then they're going to feel that ownership over their community and pick up the phone and call the police. So we're actually now starting to form a neighborhood watch. The LAPD has become involved and is working with the community. So there's many layers of benefits. So the South LA master plan is basically, the goal is to look at these 16 square miles of alleys, these 16 square miles in South Los Angeles, the 300 miles of alleys within that, and where are the areas that have the most connections. So where there's schools, where there are churches, where there's libraries, where are there big kind of bus stops, where are the gathering places. Grocery stores are a big place for people in South LA. There aren't that many. Where are the restaurants? And what we are doing is we're actually taking the 16 square mile area, and then we're going to identify about 5 priority areas within there where we're going to develop networks that will be actually designed and then eventually, hopefully, built. So the goal, and the graphic on the side shows all the red of many of the alleys in South Los Angeles. This isn't all of South LA, but it gives you a good example of what they look like. Again, so some of the same goals that I had talked about earlier with alleys. And what our key activities are, just so you can kind of picture this in your head, what we're going to do. We're first going out and mapping the alleys. We're working with a graduate studio from Cal Poly Pomona in landscape architecture, and they're going to be using GIS to map alleys, existing conditions. They're going to also be mapping and identifying community resources like churches and schools, and then they're going to be going out and talking to the community members, surveying residents, finding out what they would like to see, developing designs, and then we will identifying funds and building the project. Okay, so now I'm going to move on and talk about fitness zones. So has anyone here ever been to a fitness zone? Okay, good. Actually, a number of you. I'm surprised. Okay, at parks here in LA City? LA County? Which part?
I went to the one in Palm, so I guess it's not really LA.
Okay, yeah, on the west side. Okay.
Of course, all around the Coliseum, there used to be fitness zones.
Yes, so the fitness zones that what we're calling fitness zones really is a kind of a variation of the park course equipment that was very popular. I think starting in the 70s and 80s, and so this is a variation on it. So they're basically easy to use, accessible outdoor gyms designed to promote general health within a park, typically. And we now have 41 in LA County and that we've installed, and many cities, like the one you went to in Palms, is actually installed by the city of LA, are taking our lead and starting to install them. And so they're a great way to kind of improve and kind of activate existing parks. So basically, they use only a gravity and resistance weight system. So you're just using the weight, your own weight, when you're using elements like this press that you see here. It's durable and vandal resistant. It's meant to be outdoors, and it's really meant for adults at this time. So we've partnered with many cities here in LA County. Like I said, we have 41, and ultimately, just like our Parks and Alley projects, they're really focused on communities of high need. So helping to bring opportunities for exercise to communities that need them most. We like to locate them adjacent to playgrounds so parents can work out while their children are playing. We also like to place them next to senior centers so that they can be incorporated into programming or administrative offices. And there's one in East LA, for instance, at Salazar Park that is actually just located, it's located in a county park, but also next to a bus stop. And you'll get a lot of people who will be waiting for the bus stop, and they'll go and get a little bit of exercise while they're waiting for the bus. Each fitness zone includes 7 to 9 pieces, usually has a curb, some kind of surfacing underneath it, and some kind of signage that talks about kind of health and nutrition. We've also put together these fitness diaries, and we have some programming that we've been doing in partnership with CSU Northridge Department of Kinesiology, where the kinesiology students go out and work with community members to talk about how to use the equipment and how to get the most benefit out of using the equipment. To evaluate our efforts, we partnered with the RAND Corporation to conduct a study of the fitness zones. We looked at 12 parks. We looked at the parks before the equipment was installed, and then we looked at them after the equipment was installed, and also did a number of observations and interviews of park users. So the findings of the RAND study, I'm just going to go through them. Talk about the fact that the fitness zones actually bring people to the park who wouldn't actually have gone to the park before. So they're attracting new users. So it's what I was talking about earlier in designing parks to include a range of uses. So they're bringing new and different people to the park. They're helping to bring people to the park all throughout the day. So when a park might have been sitting vacant or empty during the day, people are there using it and they're getting exercise. Fitness zone users are getting more exercise than people who aren't using the fitness zone. So maybe you come to the park but you're not using a fitness zone, you're just coming to the park and you're sitting and watching your kids. The people who are coming to the park and using the fitness zone are getting that little extra burst of exercise. And they're also, one of the findings they found was that they help bring more people to parks. So they're actually getting more people out, and then they're also getting more people to exercise. So maybe, I think it's the where you're seeing somebody else exercise, so you see somebody on the equipment and you think, oh, maybe I'll go and try it, and the next thing you know, you're exercising. So it's actually just that kind of, maybe a little bit of peer pressure, maybe just kind of, subliminal messaging, and so it's helping to get more people to exercise. And I think one of the benefits that we, that didn't necessarily come out of the RAND study, but that we hear from people who use the fitness equipment all the time, is there's great social benefits. So they're all grouped together. The park courses used to be kind of spread out over kind of a path. We're grouping these together so that people come and one person will be on a ski machine, another person will be doing sit-ups, and they can be talking. They can be comparing notes. A woman can bring a stroller with a baby carriage, leave the baby carriage, and exercise, and other people can keep an eye on it. It becomes more of a social event, and also there's a support network for exercising, just like what you have at the gym in many ways. And then finally, they're really affordable, and the RAND study, they measure exercise based on METs. It's per calorie spent, and they basically, at the end of the day, it totals out the cost of a fitness zone kind of over its life. Per square foot works out to be about the same price as a sign at the bottom of the stairs telling people to take the stairs, or at the elevator telling people to take the stairs instead of the elevator. So they're very, very affordable. Okay, so I am going to show a video.
I was always independent and capable. I was a soldier in the Army and served in Vietnam. Well, after the stroke, I no longer can play golf. Can't drive anymore. I'd since been diagnosed as being legally blind. My body had become a lot weaker. I had lost about 20 pounds. And I had no place to exercise. So I lost a lot of muscle tone. There's been a lot of changes. become very dependent upon my sister for a lot of stuff.
He didn't really lose strength or weight until after his stroke. Veterans do not receive any physical therapy unless they're patients at the hospital or the nursing home. Once they're released, their options are very limited, and Michael was not eligible anymore for physical therapy. We requested more and it was denied. Found it to be frustrating that he wasn't able to receive benefits through the VA after he'd served his country. And I was just totally shocked.
I really don't know what I'd do without her. Even when I was young, she was my protector, yeah.
I did make some calls at some of the gyms to see if they had any special program for low-income vets, and nobody did. One day I was driving by Gladden Park, and I saw this exercise equipment out on the lawn, and got excited because I thought this is just what Michael needs to help him get back to where he was before the stroke.
Until my sister discovered the fitness zone, I had no place to exercise. You know, I think without it, I'd virtually just waste away.
It has been nice seeing the fitness zone help him restore some of his strength and some of his balance. He's got a ways to go yet, but he is making progress. So there's always hope. The work that the Trust for Public Land is doing for St. Petersburg, even though it's free, it's definitely priceless. Kind of like a prayer answered.
Okay, so I think that kind of shows the story of fitness zones, and really the goal is to get them to people who don't have access to gyms or the resources to pay for gyms, or who maybe just are more inclined to exercise outdoors in parks. What I'm going to do now is talk about our park work. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to go there. Okay. So I'm going to take us on a trip to the city of Maywood. Has anyone here been to the city of Maywood? A couple people, surprisingly. Okay. Does anyone here live in the city of Maywood? Just checking. All right. So the city of Maywood is located, well, let's see. Let me see if I can get you oriented. Let's see. Where's the mouse? Okay. This is downtown Los Angeles. It's actually not that far from downtown Los Angeles. If you have to drive, it's about 10 miles. If it's as the crow flies, it's much less. You can see the Los Angeles River. It runs right through here. It's on the west bank of the Los Angeles River. And it's really located in just a very heavily industrial community. Okay, thank you. And is traditionally really been a very working class community. It's about 1.1 miles wide, and it has over 40,000 people living in that 1.1 miles. So it's actually the densest city west of the Mississippi, based on that population. And it's a community that doesn't have a lot of extra resources. The city doesn't have a lot of extra resources to build parks, and there's just not a lot of parks for people to go to. We have done a few different park development projects in the city of Maywood. We developed the Maywood Riverfront Park, which I think is a great example of our land transaction work, where we acquired 6 parcels that were actually brownfields, pieced them together, did the remediation, and then transferred them to the city so that they could develop it into a park. So now the city has a 7-acre park along the Los Angeles River that includes ball fields and a grassy lawn for soccer and playground and restroom and picnic areas, and has really become the kind of central place for people to get outdoors in the city of Maywood. We're now bringing a new park to the city of Maywood, another new park. Maywood Avenue Park is the name of the park. It's located on currently a vacant lot. We'll be breaking ground this summer. The lot is 17,000 square feet, which is about 1/3 of an acre. So it's not that big, But when you think about the fact that it's going to be serving 12,000 people who live within a half mile of the park, it's going to have a huge amount of value to these people that currently don't have any place to play. Because Maywood is so dense, the lawns and the yards and gardens have all been mostly built out into additional units, and so there's not a lot of extra place. In the community right around the park, you can actually see an apartment building on there's apartment buildings on both sides and then railroad tracks that run along the back of the park. On the street in front of the park, you'll actually get big diesel trucks that will be driving down because there's a diesel truck cleaning facility just down the street. So there's not a lot of room for kids to even play in the street safely. We chose this site for a couple reasons. It was available, it was vacant, which is a big deal when you're trying to find new places for parks and communities like Maywood. And the community really, really, really wanted a park here. And this photograph was taken during our community workshops that we held about 4 years ago. The kids in the neighborhood had actually taken a construction staging site and turned it into a playground on their own. They are ready to play. So we did this project just like we lead all of our other projects. We start by talking to the community. We held 5 workshops partnering with the city and other community organizations, and we asked the community members ultimately what they want to see at their park. So as part of this process, people said they wanted a skate spot, they wanted a mini soccer field, they wanted a place to play, some kind of playground, a restroom building, they wanted benches, and they wanted it to have a Benito Juarez theme. So those were the key elements that the community told us they wanted. And so basically what we do is we take those key elements and we mold them into a park. And so this is the project. This is a very early design, and since then we've actually been working with a landscape architecture firm to make it much more specific, but this at least shows the key elements. So even though it's 17,000 square feet, what we're doing is we're taking this idea of a soccer field and we're shrinking it down so that it becomes big enough that kids can play. It will be artificial turf, big enough that kids from the neighborhood can bring a ball and kick it around, but not so big that it takes up the entire site. The same with the skate area. We're bringing in some of those skate features, but we're making sure that it's small and fits to the site. For the playground, what we're going to be doing is a 3-headed serpent that's a 35-foot long serpent that will be mosaicked, that is about 7 feet tall with a tunnel running through the middle of it. And we're working with a local artist to mosaic the entire thing. So it'll have imagination play and lots of opportunities for kids to run and climb and explore and have a different experience every time they come and visit the park. So I would just wrap up by saying, I think, again, kind of these are the key elements, and I think I was going to, but I think I'm out of time, so I won't walk through how we incorporated these into Maywood Avenue Park, but I think really starting with the community, looking at what they want, hearing from them what they want, taking those priorities and finding creative ways to implement them, incorporate them into a beautiful park that incorporates opportunities for exercise and fitness, and also really, I think, thinking about safety and how the community is going to be involved and have that ownership over the park from the beginning are kind of the key elements. And we've done that, and I would be happy to have any of you out to the park once it's open next winter, so let me know if you're interested. Be happy to take you on a tour. And I guess what I would say in wrapping up is that working together with communities to create parks fosters in individuals the belief that they can affect other changes in their lives. So it's a starting point for bigger changes. And when people start to feel that sense of accomplishment, it really opens doors for them. And we think that Americans need more urban parks, more enhanced existing parks, and more awareness of how we as a community benefit from urban parks. They oftentimes are under the radar, and the benefits of them are not necessarily always known, but I think we believe strongly that parks are an important solution to some of the challenges we're facing in terms of health and obesity and and success at schools, and I can just keep going on and on. But what I'm going to do actually to conclude is just show, it's a 2-minute video that the Trust for Public Land put together.
A park is a priceless gift passed down through generations. A timeless, treasured place to roam, play, learn, and grow. As a child, you climbed every tree and left no stone unturned. You learned to play with others. You conquered your fears. You wandered and you wondered. You spent warm summer nights under the stars. You ventured farther. You fell in love and stole your first kiss. You chased fly balls across blue skies. You experienced victory and defeat. You took inspiration and created something amazing. We all did. We took so much, sometimes too much. The U.S. loses 2 million acres of land to development every year. And gradually, we are losing the places that are home to so many of our fondest memories. Today, there is only one park for every 14,000 people in America. Connection to nature is a human right, and the Trust for Public Land is working to preserve it. From boulevards to ball fields, and ponds to playgrounds, together we have saved over 3 million acres of land. A park is a gift that lasts for generations, and it's worth protecting. Every dollar you donate saves $4 of land. You wouldn't be who you are without parks, and parks won't be what they are without you.
I think this was a fantastic opportunity for this group of people to hear from people who are out there kind of doing the actual work that most of us are studying. To sort of paraphrase a couple of things that I think you mentioned, as I was sitting here, I was thinking, well, today's Urban Growth Seminar is brought to you by the letter P, because if parks are for people, they're also for participatory design, they're for physical activity, they're for pleasure. I was good that we got at least one nod for aesthetics. But they're also about power. And I think you made a very good case for the reality that parks and where parks are located reflects the power of who has the opportunity to have resources on the ground and who does not. The Green Alley program I thought was absolutely amazing throughout South LA. I was at a talk a couple of weeks ago and Ed Soja referred to LA's hidden favela. And I think you're doing an amazing job to actually address what many of us don't actually see. Sometimes we see an urban landscape or a suburban kind of landscape and we don't realize the density of people who are in those communities. So I thought that was a very interesting addition to our kind of discussion about what parks could be. They actually don't necessarily only need to be a green lawn. I wrote so many things down, and so now I'm the one, in thinking about, all of these different P's, power, place, participation, I think what parks actually do now then is create a public. And that, if I had one critique of the sort of focus on the physical activity, is that by having that narrative and the sort of economics of the dollars, of the pounds that we will lose, maybe we lose sometimes the larger discussion of a public coming together in public space, in park space or in kind of alleyways, the kind of conversations that you were able to have with neighbors. That I also think is an important part of what parks do for communities, not just helping us shed pounds. So that's one of the things that I think as we talk more about kind of the health, I also think we need to kind of keep in mind all of the other things that parks do for us. My other comment is I resist the notion that parks sort of appeal to our nostalgia. I think they appeal to the past in that I think communities are shaped by the public spaces which are in them, the kind of public art, the monuments and the memorials that are very often in parks. But one of the things I kind of noticed in sort of the videos especially is this focus on a nostalgic idea of America in the 1950s. And so I would encourage us to think about parks in the course of time, both as our past and linking us to past communities, but the past communities didn't all play baseball. So I think our future plays soccer, and so I'm very glad to see there's a lot more soccer out there. I'll be joining them on that game. So that's kind of one of those areas that I think we also kind of need to open up the frame of discussion about what we expect of our parks.
So when you ask them, do they want a park, are they aware of the problem that, you know, in West LA there are tons of parks and that they are very disadvantaged? Or do they even know that there's a difference? Or are they like, oh, you know, this is just how it is?
I think people, they get it. I think they understand that they don't have the same resources. And, you know, the family that lives next to the Avalon Alley where we're working, that stays in the house after they come home from work, on the weekends they go to Griffith Park. So they will actually get in their car or take the bus and go and visit other parks in other communities. I think what they understand is that if they had a safe place to play right outside their door, or, you know, a 10-minute walk from their house, that then their kids could actually get some exercise or just meet some friends or just get outside during the week. And so I think that, I think, is what they feel like they're missing.
So how do you actually, I mean, I saw the map that has the red spots where there's a need for parks, but how do you actually go about to choosing which communities you go into to actually place some of these projects like the alleyways and the parks?
That's a really good question. So there's lots of things that determine where we go, and actually finding a place to build a park is harder than you would think. There was just a round of grants that we applied for. We submitted 5 applications for, and all 5 of those projects, it took us, we probably looked at 50 different locations, maybe more, before we found those 5. And a lot of it comes down to just practical things like, is the lot for sale? Or is it owned by the city? Or is it in a community that really, you know, we like to work in communities. So the ratio of park space, kind of the like higher end of the ratio kind of of acceptable park acres is 4 acres per 1,000 people. That's like pushing it. And so we try to find communities that have 0 acres of parks per 1,000 people within a half-mile radius. So we're really trying to go into those places that need them the most. Now, not every place we go ends up having that ratio, but that's a big factor. And then really low income. So, and then also having a partner who's willing to take the park and accept it after we develop it.
How big does it have to be, or how small can you make a park? What's your thought about parklets?
That's a good question. So we in the city of Maywood, actually, about 18 months ago, we opened up a 6,000 square foot park called Pine Avenue Park. And so it's about the same size as a residential lot. And we were able to fit picnic area, play area. I mean, it's pretty darn small, but we were able to fit quite a bit and have it feel pretty private and intimate. So I think so that you go to the park and you're not looking into people's backyards. That's what I mean by that. So we put up kind of a screen fence, lots of planting, so you feel like you've actually gone into a park. So I think you can go pretty small. I don't know if anybody here watches Parks and Recreation, but they had a park that was about the size of this table.
Medium.
Yeah.
Well, I live in Highland Park, and I think we just got one of those.
So we have yet to do one of those, but I think, you know, give us 5,000 square feet, we'll give you a park.